present my study proposal of human-centered architecture framework by introducing mixed reality. As this is a computing in construction conference, I know many of you are already deeply familiar with mixed reality. But so rather than treating these as just standalone technologies, this talk focuses on how we integrate them to solve an architectural problem. So, as you all know, all the peoples are stayed 90% of their times indoor spaces, but indoor spaces are where most of our daily activities and emotional experience happen. Especially change in a space, like such as color, material, layout, do not just affect how a room looks, they directly affect occupants' emotional and physiological states. So it is no surprise that the industry is moving away from the uniform layouts toward more varied, user-driven designs by using lots of smart technologies. However, the major research has only looked at the partial elements such as like light or color or temperature and humidity in isolation. What's still missing is a holistic picture, like task efficiency in preferred space or non-preferred spaces, paired with psychological or physiological responses. So our goal was to capture the relationship between psychophysiological change and task efficiency, introducing the mixed reality and virtual reality conditions. So this leads out to our central research question. How does the spatial change reshape the way people live and work? So we break this into the three questions. First is which spatial design elements most shape occupants' affective and physiological states? And second question, how does real-time changes via mixed reality alter the people's state? And the last one is how does that altered state translate into task efficiency across different cognitive tasks? So this is the methodology framework. First of all, I reviewed 124 papers of the Web of Science and Scopus for developing the theoretical framework. Keyword networks and PageRank centrality analysis were conducted in R languages to identify the key environmental and human responses factors. And second, a mixed reality experiment was conducted by using the Microsoft HoloLens 2. The participants performed the Stroop and reading span tasks while their EEG signals were measured to objectively analyze how different spatial environments influence cognitive task performance and the physiological responses. Finally, the experimental results were used to validate the framework and identify suitable environmental configurations for different human states. So this is the full course of the experiment. Following the IRB approval, 30 participants were recruited, and the experiment unit lasted approximately 50 minutes. First, participants completed the consent and qualification process and received a brief training about the HoloLens 2 because they are not unfamiliar with the mixed reality. They then designed the personalized home working space by selecting variables such as wall color or furniture arrangement and ceiling height. And during the assessment, for spatial conditions such as basic, preferred, and non-preferred design and personalized design were presented in a randomized order for comparing the results of the EEG and task performances with 5 minutes of the rest between the sessions. Now is the technical part. So I built the 3D models in the SketchUp Pro, then overlaid them as holograms, and by using the HoloLens 2. So there was a video, but I sent it to the PDF file, so it does not work. But the point of the setup was not the hardware itself. It's that this let us instantly reconfigure of the wall color and flooring and ceiling height in place, like something that would be physically and financially infeasible with real construction. And for physiological measurements, I used the EEG since electrical potentials in the cortex shift in real time as emotional and cognitive load change. So recording was done with the Emotiv EPOC as shown in this slide. 14-channel headset covering a frontal and temporal and occipital and parietal regions. And for the task efficiency, the Stroop test was the measured short-term executive function. And while the reading span task measured working memory and longer-term performance. So by getting check the task performance, shown formula is applied with the accuracy and response time to get learning performance. The raw EEG data is extremely noisy. Our pipeline imported the data through the MATLAB EEG lab, applied the Blackman window and ICA and FFT to divide and isolate the 2 to 39 Hz band. Then we can get the theta, alpha, beta, and gamma bands. These were converted to relative power, and from there we computed to two indices, which is shown as a mental workload and the mental stress. For the statistical treatment, I used the SPS version 26, and I started with the normality test, where normality held in the above side, the task efficiency and mental stress. I applied the repeated measure ANOVA with two keys at HSD. Where it didn't, a mental workload, I used the Friedman test with Bomberonic correction. It was long, but yeah, now is the results section. Our network analysis shows of 124 papers, surfaces 4 clusters. Cluster 1 centers on a space configuration components, like physical elements like the color, furniture, or light and surface material. And second cluster centers on the temperament of the human occupants, such as like perception, psychology, behavior, and decision making. Third cluster centers on the smart construction technology, which is known as a BIM or VR or XR like that. Last one centers on the status of the human within the indoor space, comfort, safety, and productivity. So based on that results, I suggest a human-centered architecture framework. And the framework consists of the two main axes. So the cognitive axis shown on the x-axis represent how individuals perceive a space based on their innate temperaments and accumulated experiments. And in contrast, the physiological task axis shown in the y-axis represents physiological and psychological responses to change in the spatial environment, including HRV or emotional states. These two axes interact with each other and influence that user's current condition and spatial decision making. This human state also affects how activities are performed within the space, including both rest and productivity tasks. And now is the statistical analysis. So executive ability was highest in the non-preferred space, which this suggests that unfamiliar or less preferred environment may temporarily increase tension and concentration, leading to better performance on short and immediate tasks. However, working memory was highest in the self-selected space. This indicates that a personally preferred and psycho-physiological comfortable environment may be more effective for tasks that require sustained attention and continuous information processing. So overall, short-term executive performance was relatively higher in the non-preferred space, whereas longer and more sustained tasks tend to show better performance in the individually preferred space. And this slide shows the differences of the EEG-based mental stress and workload across the spatial conditions. RM ANOVA showed significant differences in mental stress for both executive ability and working memory tasks. Stress was highest in the preferred space during the executive tasks, which is taking for a short time, while it was higher in the non-preferred space during the working memory tasks. And the Friedman test found no significant workload difference for working memory, although workload tended to be highest in the non-preferred space and the lowest in the self-selected space. So for conclusion, non-preferred spaces increase cognitive workload but reduce short-term stress and improve the executive task performance. Over time, however, self-selected spaces better supported lower stress and sustained efficiency, while stress accumulated in non-preferred spaces. Therefore, spatial conditions should be dynamically adjusted according to the task type and the concentration needs. And this study was not intended simply to validate mixed reality technologies, rather it demonstrates how their integration can provide architects with practical and human data-driven design method. So this is my key references, and thank you for listening. Thank you very much.